Our first question goes to Alfonso Fernandez Sanchez of EFE.
Hello, Secretary Blinken. The US government has underscored the need to tackle the root causes of migration in the Northern Triangle. Do you think these countries are making enough efforts? And particularly, are you worried about the decisions against freedom of speech and press in El Salvador by President Bukele? Do you think he's going down the authoritarian slope? A la canciller Moines, ¿considera que Estados Unidos está cumpliendo con su parte de responsabilidad en estas cuestiones migratorias?
And do you think that the U.S. is complying with all that they are supposed to comply with these migratory things?
First, what we are experiencing in our own hemisphere is multifaceted. And of course, there are challenges that are clear in the so-called Northern Triangle countries, in El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala, but also Nicaragua, Venezuela, Haiti, Cuba, and then people now coming into our hemisphere from beyond who are also on a migratory path, including coming to the United States. So we're looking at this comprehensively and looking at what we can do together to meet the challenge wherever it comes from. With regard to the Northern Triangle countries, we're working with each of them in different ways to address both short-term challenges, but also these long-term drivers. I would note that Vice President Harris, among other things, led a very significant call to action from the private sector to make new investments in the Northern Triangle countries. And since that call to action, I think we've seen something like $1.2 billion in additional investment that over time, as it takes root, will create new opportunities for people and help take away some of what's driving them to leave, which is the lack of economic opportunity. But it has to be comprehensive. Economic opportunity, governance, combating corruption, dealing with insecurity, all of these things are vital. But I think it's also fair to say that none of the countries in question, of course, can do this alone. The demands are extraordinary. So this is where all of us come into play, but it's also where the international financial institutions as well as international organizations come into play. And bringing all of that together with the goodwill and intentions of the governments in question, I think we can make a real difference. When it comes to El Salvador more explicitly, look, we have a strong partnership with the people of El Salvador. El Salvador has experienced setbacks in democratic governance, in the separation of powers, the rule of law. And we look to President Bukele to make progress in addressing some of those setbacks. We also urge El Salvador to implement the state of emergency in a manner that is consistent with human rights. We can tackle violence and crime while also protecting civil rights and fundamental freedoms. These two things are not in opposition to each other. I would note, for our part, that the United States has provided tens of millions of dollars recently in funding to deal with the problem posed by gangs. We continue to cooperate and coordinate closely, including also with a number of pending extradition requests of gang leaders to help address the problems posed by criminality and gangs.